Hey traders, let's dive into my trade recap for Wednesday, May 14th. Um, First of all, I'll tell you I overtraded a little bit today. I got chopped up in this hairy action right here. I'll go through that. I'll walk through that in a second. But I did recover. I ended up green in all of my accounts across the board. Having a good week so far. I should be getting a payout in the next couple of days. So if all goes well, I should be getting some money in the bank, and I can show you guys that on my recap. So that'll be fun. And then I have another set of accounts that will be sometime next week if things continue. All right, let's dive into this. So I took a couple of London trades, 2 a.m. Central Time for me. I wasn't sleeping very well, and it was kind of one of those things where my alert went off, and I logged in right on at the perfect time. So this white line right here, that is the previous day high. I always have that marked out: previous day high, previous day low. You can see that's where yesterday's high was, and it was rejecting. Really just took this trade because the risk to reward was really good. My stop loss was super tight, and it rejected. So I took that short. Normally I would just go to like VWAP or something like that, but you can see it was a slow grind up all morning, and then there was a huge bearish move within minutes. So I was kind of thinking there might be a bigger move. That's why at that point I just trailed my stop. Ended up catching it all the way down to that Asia low where it grabbed that liquidity and bounced. So that was trade number one, really good trade. Since we had that bearish move, I was thinking short again. So my next one was a loss. It rejected at this blue line right here, which is VWAP, and rejected. So I took that short. I really was just targeting maybe the value area low or something a little bit below that previous low, and ended up getting stopped out. So that was it for my morning trades. The next one I took, move this over. Getting into the market open. So let me go down to the New York market open. Let me go down to the 1 minute and kind of show you what we had going on here. The first trade I took really was just a liquidity sweep. This was the point. This was kind of my reasoning behind this one. This was the overnight high at 382. And just kind of a psychological round number at 400. Also, if you watch Bookmap, there was a big set of orders at 400 that ended up getting filled, and it rejected. So again, similar to the one that I mentioned on my first trade, it was just a good risk to reward. It was just an 18-point stop. I would take that any day. And again, I was, maybe just hoping for a retest of VWAP or something like that, but it had a big bearish move, continued down. I targeted the point of control. I've actually looked at this or talked about this in my recent volume profile video. And I mean, the 15-minute opening range low had already been set by the time I was in that trade. So I could have just targeted the range low. But with that big bearish move, I was expecting a little bit more, even just a wick outside of the range. And point of control was right below it. So that's where I set my limit order for take profit, and it hit that perfectly. So if you guys don't follow point of control, session volume profile, all that stuff, I definitely recommend you check out my video, because it's like at least 3 or 4 times a week I get trades like that are just perfect. All right. From there, even though we had that big bearish move, we were holding this point of control level. So I ended up taking a long here. I've learned a big learning point for me has been to follow the trend, and our market open was down. So the fact that I was taking a long here, I knew was against trend, and I didn't want to try to catch the whole move like all the way back up to range high. That's a big area of growth for me. So I put my stop or take profit at the anchored VWAP, got out there. It was good. My next trade is kind of where I got chopped up. This one was a really long trade and ended up hitting, I actually got out at break even. So when I entered, my reasoning for this is it was bullish, that second trade that I showed you just there, kind of stayed above this blue line, which is overnight VWAP, busted through the anchored VWAP, and I was thinking long, right? I was targeting that range high again. Then it just chopped around for like an hour. That I really should have just gotten out at break even, like somewhere around here, because there was no direction in the market. There was no follow through from the sellers or the buyers. But once we got here, like once we broke a new high, I just put my stop loss at break even and ended up getting out. So that was good that I didn't take a loss there, but it kind of made me rush into my next trade, and I was on tilt a little bit at that point. So here I took a short, even though this is the dumb trade that I should have eliminated for the day. So this is my learning point from today. This whole last hour was just chop. Like there was no direction. Even here, this low, it wasn't lower than, like it never hit the initial balance low. So what made me think that we should take a short? So I did. I took a short at that 15-minute opening range low. I was thinking maybe just go down to initial balance low, but I shouldn't have taken that trade in hindsight. The good thing though, the learning point for me was that I knew we were choppy, like super, super choppy. In the past, I would try to like go long, short, and end up blowing my account and getting tilted and like totally mess things up. So I recognized that we were in a choppy market, and then I took a bad trade. At that point, I turned off my computer, walked away, did some things around the house. So huge win for me there. I'm super proud of that. When I stepped away, what I did was set alerts for myself. So I set an alert at the initial balance high, and then I set an alert at the initial balance low. Actually, I think I set it right here at about 290, like that most recent wick low, because I wanted to know if it was chopping around in this range, I didn't want to be a part of it. But if it created a new high or a new low, then I can come back and look at the market and see what's going on and possibly see if there's a trade set up. So here we broke that initial balance high. My alert went off, came back to my computer, and we had a failed auction. So I ended up finishing off the day with this failed auction trade. This was the initial balance high. If you guys are familiar with failed auctions, strong rejection off of that. Chopped around a little bit. Sellers were definitely in control because buyers were not bringing it back higher. I took that short, and really I just trailed my stop loss down. A lot of times I'll get out at like VWAP or maybe the half point range of the initial balance, but I actually was able to trail it all the way down to about the point of control. I got out a little bit early because of this wick to the left. That's where I ended up taking my profit. So overall, like I said, fantastic day. Got chopped up a little bit, but have learned and grown from that. I'm proud of myself for that. One last thing, if you guys are still with me, I'm going to share my gold trade that I took. I don't trade gold very often. Really, what I do is just mark my levels similar to what I do with NQ. And I don't even pull up the charts unless my alerts go off. So I'll set alerts at some of my levels that I have marked. So the reason I took this trade, this is the one that I actually took this morning early, is because this gray area right here, if you zoom out, I had that level marked. It was a very high volume area. You can see that it was chopping around for days and like a couple of weeks now. I had an alert set right here. So it broke this recent low. If you zoom in a little bit, that's about where I entered right here. Sorry, I know I'm going through time frames a lot, but this white line that I had marked, that, in my opinion, was kind of the line in the sand before it just dumped. I actually messaged one of my Discord friends about this, but you can see it was support, support, support. And then, once it tests support often enough, it's going to just break through that. And that's what it did here today. So I did not catch the whole move simply because I hit my profit target in my account. and I was locked out. But I got a pretty good portion of it, and that was my gold trade for the day. So again, green across all accounts. Great day, great things that I've learned and improve. I can see that I'm improving on, which feels good. And hopefully I'll be able to show you guys a massive payout in the next couple of days. All right. Comment below if you guys have any tips, anything that you feel like I can improve on. This whole thing is for me to learn and grow. Other than that, subscribe, like, and have a fantastic day.